reading all this. I don't feel like it. I don't feel like it.
The doors of the Love Church are now open. Dear world, you name it, we cover it from the world of singles to the behind the scenes of the greatest movie ever filmed, called Marriage. We dig into everything from dating 101. Why won't they commit? It's complicated. I can't do it if it's the three of us. They're a good person, but I'm not attracted to them in that way. 2, they really didn't disclose who they were before I said I do. How do I do this if they can't keep a job? The bills are paid, but the bedroom is suffering. Did I marry you or did I marry your family because we only can take care of us? Let's open up our marriage. Why do I have to buy into your beard gang illusion? You could have told me you were down low and we could have remained friends and not married. And last but not least, did you marry me or your pastor? Have we gotten your attention yet? If so, tune in to Unique Perspectives Love Talk Radio, Thursday at 4:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, if you want to hear more of today's real issues in the world of love. The doors of the Love Church are now open.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Unique Perspectives Love Talk Radio. I'm your host, Charles Dixon, and I'm here with my great co-host, Mr. Adam Ford. How are you, sir?
What's up, fam? How you doing, man? I'm doing
pretty good.
I'm making it today. It's Thursday. We almost at the end, and I'm glad about it.
Yes, that's good, man. Well, first, let me say, I hope everyone else that's watching has been well, has had a wonderful week. It always seems like there's so many ups and downs from any given period to the next. We had the erratic debate.
I was just thinking about that.
We had the erratic debate, and it's kind of like, I don't care what side of the fence somebody sits on, or even if you sit in the middle, it doesn't make anybody proud on either side.
I think one side has a right to be proud, whereas the other side might not be so much.
Well, this is what I mean. No, I'm not necessarily saying long-term principle. I mean, from the debate, it was just kind of like one of those things where, me personally, I look at it like this. You don't have to, it's all about tactics. You don't have to necessarily poke the bear to get the response you want, right? You can just stick to the facts, state what you're presenting, and let that win for you. We don't have to do the opposite, which makes things, it's almost like you playing their game. So what makes you any different? That kind of thing.
No, but when the bear is eating fermented honey and they don't know what the heck is going on, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. That's like that uncle. That's like that uncle that you regret inviting to the cookout.
Yeah,
they doing some crazy crap.
This is an interesting election for sure. Make no mistake about it.
No doubt.
And then, last but not least, before we move on, I typically don't do this, but I have to talk briefly, just a second, smidget, about Club Shade. All right. Oh my gosh. All right. So here's my thing. Whatever we do in life, it's okay. We're grown. Just own what you do. And this is what I mean when I say own what you do. Anybody with some common sense knows. I don't care if if I went into a room and the music started saying, and I was like, oh yeah. And then I throw the phone down. My phone is not going to go live to Facebook. Okay. It's not going to go live to Instagram. I gotta get up here and say, let's go. Wait 1 second. Yes, I'm sure you're right. Okay, 5, 4, 3, set it up. So I'm just like, don't play us for fools, okay? So if I had to say anything, and if I was in a position to be his friend, I would just say, why? Like, you're in the perfect seat at this moment in your life. So why I think for years, honestly, and I'm only saying this because for years, it seems like, and I'm only speaking for men of color, it seems like when we get in positions that are coveted and positions that we should just be like, hey, I'm blessed. I'm going to be grateful and I'm going to move accordingly. We always get cocky, get besides ourselves, and now we got to throw the risque things out there in the mix, and it just becomes why. So I would just say why. Like you didn't have to do this. Whether you're trying to prove something to someone else, disprove a rumor, whatever the case, everybody got their own life. We do what you do.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and the whole idea of the fact that it somehow or another happened accidentally, because I'm sitting there thinking, I'm not an IG person, so I don't know how IG works, but I do know that when it comes to recording certain things on your phone, there's a process. There are
you don't lie about setting your phone down.
Deliberately do some things in order for it to happen. So here's my theory. My theory is he wanted to, but then forgot that he did, and so threw the phone on the bed, and so here we have it. Everything's in this way and whatever.
But listen, I could even disprove that. He said, and I quote, on the nighttime show with Ocho Cinco, he said when the guy was teasing him, saying, "Man, you was a little light. You was on there for like a minute or so." Like he was trying to say the act was short. And what did he say to discredit himself?
I know what he said.
Oh man, I'm 25 minutes in. So you mean to tell me you waited 20 to the 24 and a half minutes and say, wait, post, now finish.
Right.
Come on, man. You didn't do that. Just call it a buck and just tell the truth. That was a foolish little act, and it just didn't work out. So, it is what it is. So anyway, that's one of those rare. I just had to kind of express that anyway.
Right.
Now let's get to today's moment at hand.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Ford, I have to say first to you, I have to preface this to you. This may be a bit unconventional to the listeners, and it may be a different, this is going to be different, right? But it is, whatever, it is a notion that really got in my brain, I would say, probably over the weekend. And I was thinking about this, and I started thinking about, I could have took the net wide and just said men in general, right?
Okay.
But I thought about African-American men in particular, and how we either show up to marriage or lack thereof, right? It's like either, when you hear historically, when we talk about even when we sit down and talk to our grandparents, or our mom and dad, most of the time, there was an instance of circumstance that pushed them to get married. Like even my own parents. Okay. My dad talked about how when my mom was in college and he was just working in DC, they met, they started dating. My mom was from the country, so they had them strong Southern values. You get it? So she met my dad. They get together. They have their little moment. My mom pops up pregnant. Her family comes up. You know how the South is. Her father comes up and he gave my dad the thing like, all right, what you gonna do with Cora? She's pregnant. My dad, I'm just saying, we just talking at each other. I'm just trying to get to know her right now. I'm not necessarily ready.
You already got to know her. What's up?
So he did that. He got to know her in family way, as you say it. So you know what her Southern father did? He told my mother, come on, we going back home. Took my mother back home because he was like, you ain't finna be up here and be made a fool of, right? So what did my dad do? He let maybe 2 months or so go by. And the way he told me the story, he said, Charles, it was killing me when she was gone because I was really missing her. And what he said was, I thought about it. He says, I did not want to imagine my child, someone else raising my child or doing the job I should have done as a man, right? So, and besides me missing her. So what he ended up doing was taking the drive down to the country. I remember him telling me, and it made me laugh. He said when he knocked at the door, her sister, because she had a big family, right? The sister came to the door. Cora is Charles at the door. So they was all down here. So then my grandfather comes to the door. They let him in, and he was like, they were like, what's up? So my dad was like, I'm coming to get Cora. He was like, what do you mean? So he made my dad come out with it. So my dad got married to her down there. Then they came back. So my point is, instances like that, or instances where we'll do the long courtship, the long relationship where someone will say, well, shouldn't we do this? It makes sense to do this. Or you got the shotgun wedding notion, right? You got that.
Right.
Or you have, let's take it religious. In church, we all know how it is in church, how it's like, yeah, we can all sit there as single people and live life. But if we single and we mingle, and if we date, and if things go to another level or another place,
right.
Now it becomes, this is what we shouldn't be doing here in church. We need to be saved, so we need to get married so we can be right. That's the narrative, right? It's the truth. So then many people have gotten married under that narrative, right? Of saying they wanted to be right. Heck, I remember my brother told me, is he looking? But anyway, my brother told me years ago, listen, I'm not telling, my brother's probably gonna say, get off of there. But anyway, years ago, my brother was a drummer at our church. He was his wife. My brother I would run bargains to use his car. He'd be like, well, take me over so-and-so's house, and then you can take the car. Now, this is how we all in church, right? We're all in church during this time. So I take him over there. He hangs out. I pick him up later, what have you. And then it got to the point where the wife was like, well, what are we going to do? Then he got married. So the point I'm saying to this whole thing is, I feel as though African-American men lack a sense of system. And to me, everything else in life has a system to it. You can't get car insurance without going through their system. You can't come into this country without going through immigration. You can't, there's many things that have systems tied to it, right? And the reason these systems are tied to it is because you can't run compliance through anything that doesn't have a system established.
Okay.
So that's in layman's term, people, in the relationship sense, you really can't have a bunch of gripes if you haven't set up a system to conduct them. You understand what I'm saying? So my point is, I feel like we show up lackluster. And a lot of times we find ourselves in these relationships where I'm sure every Black man at some point has heard, so what are we doing? Where is this going? And you know why women say that? Yes, some of them just legitimately care about what's going on with the nature of the relationship or where things are happening, but they say it because they don't feel a sense of direction and leadership from the man.
Right.
So it makes them starts to ask the questions of what's this going to do, blah, 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 blah. Right. So I had the notion to say this thought process could be something that could really be a game changer, not just for people actively in situations or actively in relationships or so on and so forth, but the younger youth that just are coming up behind us, like it's something to transfer a way of life, right? To say you can approach things this way as opposed to approaching them according to the past lineage and what your daddy and grandma and grandpa did. They were together, but in most cases it was dysfunctional unions, right? So I'm only saying that to say, I think about at work, and I'm just going to bring this down. I bring it to you. I think about at work, and a light bulb went on in my head last week. As much as I do projects all the time, right. But when I was going through this process the other week, and when I went through the whole gambit from the beginning to the end, and when I looked at it, all the words were coming up off the page, and they were all relatable relationship-wise. And I said to myself, why is it we can take something complex, start it, finish it, and then say, all right, what's next in an organization? But when it comes to people and in relationship, we just, are you going to do this? Are you going to marry? I mean, yeah, I am. Yeah. We just clueless, right? And we just need to put the structure behind it so that we don't, because we're human. And I think if we're honest, people may not say this, but sometimes a man can find himself navigating in a relationship. And before you know it, you get to a point where you feel a little discombobulated and lost. which is why the structure of the project keeps you on track, right? And it keeps you focused on the agreement at hand so that you can finish. You understand what I'm saying? If that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So before I get into all of the other stuff, I guess you said I got to be the one to read, right? So
yeah, today is your turn. Today is your turn with all that stuff you got.
Let me go through this. All right.
Let's go.
All right, let's go.
Let's go.
Ever wonder what your relationship or marriage would have looked like if it had began with the proper framework, awareness, and structure, enabling it to operate as a smooth running system? Men, or more specifically, the African American man, who is the initiator of the exclusive entity of marriage within his culture, has for many years entered into it unprepared, disarmed, and unsure, to say the least. The breadcrumb trail, to a fault, history has dealt him a dysfunctional hand and breadcrumb trail to follow when it comes to the straight and narrow of love goals and the implementation of it. While there has certainly been men that have stood on the business towards marriage, willfully choosing the woman he couldn't see life without, there has also been the alternative list of reasons why men have jumped the gun because it made practical sense to marry based on current circumstances. What if we prefaced courtship like that of a high-level project principles, where we approach our intent in that same manner from start to finish? Each phase would have actionable milestones for that man to achieve. You have initiation, the purpose, planning, the scope, execution, the activity, monitoring and controls, the touch points. And then we have the closure, which is the final phase, followed up by the change/blending management plan, which is necessary. So I said, if we took some of those things like that and we implemented them into real time with people, how much more successful could we be if we did that? You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with that. I think a lot of times when we approach relationships, even from the very beginning, we have a tendency to kind of like we're falling into it. It's just happening.
Yeah.
You know, and it's almost as if it's magic, and there is no a reason or rhyme to what we're doing. We're just out there in the ether, floating, if you will, just out there, and there's no real substantive thought as to what we're doing and how we're going to do what we do. And here's the thing, though, Charles. Here's the thing that some of us need to admit, that the reason why our relationships look like chaos and just craziness is because that's how we live our lives. Some of us are walking and living in spaces that have no order. There's no structure. There's no framework upon which you build. You're just out there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And you know, we kind of want to romanticize it and make it to be this organic, you know, the quote unquote universe is guiding me and this is how I'm flowing, and you know, I'm just all about the spontaneity of life and just it's just fun all around. But the reality is you cannot continue to live your life that way and expect your life to be good. Who wants to live in a chaotic, I don't know what's going to happen from moment to moment experience in this life? At some point in time, you got to sit down and you've got to logically, rationally think about the steps of your life and the path you're going to take. You have to be, as I like to say, pragmatic in your thinking, that I'm going to think about this in a way that's going to yield the benefit that I'm looking for. It's not just going to happen haphazardly. It's not just going to happen accidentally. It's not just going to be a coincidence, but there's going to be some intention behind what I'm doing. If we approach our relationships in the same way, okay, in terms of us actually thinking through the reason why I am dating this person is, first of all, to see if we have some compatibility, if there's some chemistry there. If there's some chemistry there, then we continue on to the next point. Well, can we be committed to one another? Can we stand with each other? Can we be loyal to each other? And if we get past that point, then we talk about the long term, the engagement, the betrothal, the marriage. But a lot of us don't approach our own personal lives that way. Who among us is actually operating with a budget in terms of finances? You know, a lot of times the reason why you don't have enough money left in your bank account is because you did not budget what you spent. You just spent it without a real plan. You just bought stuff and that was it. And now you're left with nothing and you still got bills to do.
That's it.
Where's your budget at? Where's your plan at? Where's your plan of action in terms of doing what you set yourself out to do? Now, having said all that, let me strike a balance for you. Because even while we were talking, Charles, in the pre-show, some things occurred to me. Now, we absolutely need to be thoughtful in terms of our relationships. Long gone are the days where we just walk into relationships, no plan, no intent, just in there, and whatever happens. We need to take a thought in terms of how we conduct ourselves and how we navigate our relationship. At the same time, I really do believe there still should be a spark of impulse, and there should definitely be, as like I already said, there should be some spontaneity there. You know what I'm saying? Because if it's all just a plan, then where is the life flow in that? Where is the juice, if you were, in that? Where's the juice? Okay, but it can't be all juice. It's got to be a plan. And I think what's going to be challenging is being able to strike a balance between that rational, pragmatic, practical planning and having it be also an organic, spontaneous experience.
That's good, man.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell the people something. This is probably going to be a slightly different show. So what you might want to do is take out your pens and paper. This is going to be one of those things where you might want to take some notes. So I'm going to follow up on what you said, Adam, as I go through some of these points, because you were speaking on some of the points that I was going to touch on.
Okay.
First thing I want to just define, since we're talking about a love system, is what is a system? And when I saw the definition, I was like, interesting, in according to what we were talking about. System is a set of principles or procedures according to which something is done, an organized framework or method. It kind of ties into what you're saying. And so here's another interesting part before we go deep into what we're going to talk about with the projects. Projects have two particular project styles to choose from. And I find this interesting because any two people that are looking to walk into this project together can choose which style works for them best.
Right.
So that if anybody knows anything about project management, two of the styles you're going to hear is either waterfall style or agile style. So I'm going to read what waterfall is, and you can find yourself in it. Waterfall is a linear project management method with 5 phases: the requirements, which we'll get into shortly, the design, basically what you're looking to build out in your relationship, the implementation is putting it to work, right? Actually applying what you're doing. And this is the interesting part I saw. So after implementation, verification. You know, we like to fact check people to make sure they're not frauds and all that kind of stuff. And then last but not least, maintenance. So basically the maintenance is keeping up what we delivered. Right. And so the other style, so waterfall is kind of broken out into phases. Agile speaks flexibility a little bit
Okay.
for the person that's not necessarily so rigid. Some people might love waterfall because they need a certain type of structure.
Right.
So agile type of people is basically the agile methodology is a project management framework that breaks the project down into several dynamic phases, commonly known as sprints, like quick acts.
Right.
Acts. And then it says the agile framework is an iterative methodology. After every sprint, after every action, teams reflect and look back to see if there was anything that could be improved. So this is like a prepaid phone, like a prepaid part. It's like we can keep talking, we can keep loving, but we need to make sure we got enough in the reserve before we go forward. So that could be a benefit too, right? Because sometimes not everybody is responsible enough to deal with an extension of credit, right? So some people need pay to play, right? So, all right, so you got that. Now, here's the unique part about any project is, and this is where I think people can learn most or take something from it, is in the beginning of every project, there has to be a meeting with the primary stakeholders. In this case, it's Jack and Jill, right? The man and the woman. And so what that means is in that meeting, what happens is you get together. And so basically I would approach you, Adam. I would come in there and I would say, hey, so they told us down in legal that you guys were in search of a new process or technology to help your jobs work a lot easier and smoother, right?
Yeah.
You have a process that's manual, it's outdated, it needs to be updated and more efficient.
Right.
So what I tell them is, explain to me what's broken about YouTube, right? Explain to me what works, explain to me what doesn't, and explain to me what you would like to see together as an ideal relationship. And so then during that process, what people can often find out at the stakeholder level is, are we in position to even take on a project? Right? Like that can be the make or break phase. Once you go through that whole stakeholder engagement, it's almost like a marital counseling up the front.
Okay. Yeah, on the front end.
Almost like let's get together and let's see if you guys are capable together of running this project first before we go any further. Yeah. So, you're outlining the purpose, the goals, the scopes. It's like, you get the buy-in, let's define it, all those things like that happen in that phase. And so let's just take the positive route and say, if we all like what we hear and we agree at the stakeholder meeting that we still want to do this together and move forward exclusively, because the stakeholder meeting is before the exclusion. That's just talking to you guys. If you say you like each other, you want to know what's what. Let's see if we make sense on paper to go into a project system together, right? Once you say you're going to go into it, here comes the after the stakeholder meeting comes basically the initiation. That's how in college, how they'll have like those what do you call those Delta Phi, what do you call them?
Sororities?
Yeah, sororities. So sororities have initiations to get you in. They're the initial kickoffs. So in this instance, we're looking at the project initiation, the Love Project initiation as the kickoff to kind of set the tone. So basically what's happening is we're going to establish what we're going to do, what value it's going to deliver, and we're going to just make sure one more time before we go forward that we got the buy-in together, right? We both are agreeing to commit to this project. And if you say yes, then from that point on, we go to setting the scope. And in so many words, that's kind of like the scope. The scope is pretty much like, how do I say? The scope is pretty much basically where we do the planning and things, the project planning and things like that. And so basically, that's where, as a couple, you define what the scope, the goals are going to be, what you want to be delivered in this relationship. Are there any additional resources that we need to help us? Do we need to talk to a counselor? Do we need whatever? Let's gather everything we need in the scope of this project so that we can have that laid out before we go forward. Now, I know I'm going on, but anyway, here's real quick. Here's the next level. After we talk about scope with each other, this is going to throw people off because I bet you we don't consider this part, but it's something we consider in the project world.
Okay.
After you establish the scope, you then have to set roles and responsibilities.
Right.
So that means whoever is in your immediate circle that has influence on your relationship, you need to assign them a role, right? If you're going to be in my world, whether it's if somebody may say, well, it's just me and my son, or if it's a spiritual relationship, if your pastor has influence, no sense of ignoring them. They need to be in the roles. If it's somebody's father, mother, significant, a surviving aunt, uncle, a girlfriend, a guy friend, if that person has influence over the project, they need to be included. If they don't, they don't have to be on there. But if you know something about what they say, or you refer to them one way or another, you need to go ahead and include them in the because what that's going to be is, once we assign the roles, we got to say, listen, I'm just making an example. Adam and I, if you let's just say you and Maria, Adam and I are starting this project. We believe in one another, and we are committing to this process together so that we can get to an expected end with the proper steps and structure in place. Do you guys agree to kind of support us? Really, the roles and responsibilities are really people that support what you're doing. So once they agree to that, fine. Now here's where it gets real funny part, I'm sure for all the ladies in the house. Anyway, now you get to the part of the project where you have to discuss. You and I were talking about this, Adam, backstage, the timeline.
Okay.
This is the key point. Because, again, the reason why a lot of women find themselves having those repetitive conversations to say, what are we doing? I mean, it's been like 6 months. Anyway.
6 months? Oh, well, at least like a year or two. Good Lord.
Yeah, the reason why women get to that point, or 2 years, 3 years, whatever, how many, is because in their mind, I have an end goal of what I would like for this to look like, which is no problem, right? But that's if you're marrying yourself, right? But if you're marrying another person, there has to be a buy-in, a mutual buy-in to say this time frame works or this time frame doesn't. Can we adjust it forward? Can we take it back? Nonetheless, right? So you probably won't find too many women anywhere that will say, let's extend the time. They're gonna always say sooner is better, right? So get together, and the timeline is simply where the two people in the relationship decide when they kick off the project. If it's going to be October 1, somebody is saying, I don't care how many steps I have to commit to, but in June of 2025, I want a wedding, or 26, whatever somebody's thing is, right? But once you establish that date, that's what you're going to work from. Now, I will tell you, in the project world, not all projects have to go to the end. Some can be finished sooner if things are compliant, right? The only reason we would have to extend it is if somewhere along the line there was a dependency that created a risk or some kind of delay or diversion in what we were doing.
Okay.
Like your ex-boyfriend, your baby mom, the pastor don't agree with the relationship, somebody lost their job, whatever the case, those things that pop up that throw off things. Well, I'm just being funny, but so you start there, and then from that point, and then this is where we'll jump in, Adam. Once you commit to all of those steps in the project, you commit to the agreed upon timeline. Then the rest is now you are working the relationship out, and you are having what's referred to as those what is it? I had it written down. Those points of, hold on one second. I had it here. Oh yes, monitoring and control. So it's about basically the relationship is on cruise control at that point. But you need to monitor to make sure you're not running to a red light, or because cruise is going to go. But somebody say, wait, let's check. Are we still good? It's 100 miles in. Is everybody all right? Are you still feel like I'm the woman or man for you? Any issues, any complaints, any resentments? Whatever. You discuss those things along the way, and you let that be the coasting regimen in the relationship, but not forgetting to check in. That's key. You got to check in. And so, and after you go through this whole touch points part, the next part off in the distance is the project closure. That is on tonight, the point you get to if you feel like the project relationship has been fruitful, right? It's been fruitful. It's been good. This structure has been good for me. It's been good for her. I see us making our date, right? And so when if you successfully somebody say we get married April 2025, fine. April 2025 comes, the project closure comes to a head, but like they tell us at work, the closure is the point where we get the slaps on the back for doing a great job of finishing the project, but it's not the end. Because any person that has delivered a project knows once you finish the project, that's pretty much the easy part if you got two people that want to be on the project. The hard part is what they will tell you is the adoption of the project. When it gets rolled out, not everybody buys in. Not everybody follows up. Not everybody wants to blend and keep the thing going positive. So most marriages get married and you like, that's my wife. Yeah, that's my husband. All right. And you go about your ways in life and you just come back together at night to go to sleep. But you don't realize there has to be a whole regimen of planning that takes place to make sure it's being ingrained through change management and blend management. If you got a family, if you have, obviously you got two different living styles, two different bill paying styles, two different everything styles, right? So that whole time period, you're blending, you're changing the culture from what you do as you to us. So that has to be continuous, because adoption will go away if you do like a week or two and you stop. You got to continuously work on adoption. So I'll leave the floor open for questions and things like that. I have notes, but that's kind of like, I tried to kind of rush through the framework because I know we work with a little bit of time. This is one of those series kind of shows, but the point of this whole thing before I let Adam loose is, I'm just teasing, is simply because I feel we as men particularly, we need framework and we need systems to invite our women into with us. To be able to lead the way as a man and come out with the beautiful products that we can deliver if we are solid in our thinking and if we are, if we are just like we intentional about it. Because I'm sorry, ladies, listen, you cannot leave men to chance. When you leave men to chance, it's just chance. Men need structure. Why do you think in life they come to the high school, the military comes to the high school? They come to the high school because they know the boys need structure. So they're offering them before you get out of school. If act a fool, here's an option.
Okay.
College option, whatever the case is. But the goal is to get a man into a system. When you lead, and this is why men, particularly, let's just take Bruce for instance. Bruce and I have been on several shows where Bruce have referenced when we were talking about relationships or marriages. Bruce would always say, I need the woman that will buy into my system. He's saying his way of structure and framework.
Right.
You don't have everybody doesn't have to agree to everybody, but your style is your style. My style is my style. Your style is your style, Adam. And so everybody has their own system that they would like a person to join in with them to work out life with. That's right. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. Very good, sir. Very good. Very good. Very good presentation. Appreciate your PowerPoint. So I'm not going to add a whole lot, but I do want to add something to this conversation, and I think it's something that we need to talk about. So you have done a really good job in terms of explaining that we need system, we need framework within the parameters of our relationship, within the parameters of our whatever our dealings are. And again, I got to go back to the point that I made earlier in this conversation, was the fact that we lack framework in our relationships because we lack framework within our own personal lives.
Correct.
And a lot of us are just out there willy-nilly, you know what I'm saying, and just doing whatever. There's no real order to what we're doing. We seem to want disorder than we want order. And so it's interesting. So when we approach our relationships, we approach it from the mindset and the perspective of something that is out of order or in disarray, in disorder. And that's something that you have to address at the very beginning of your relationship. So here's the thing, and this is interesting to me. And I think, again, this is something that we were talking about in the pre-show, and this is a statement I'm paraphrasing in terms of what you said, that men need to be more intentional in their pursuits, and women need to be more realistic in their expectations. Correct. I think a lot of us, and particularly I want to address the men right now. A lot of us as men have neglected the logical aspect of who we are as human beings. Now, women are, more or less aligned on the side of the emotional aspect, which is fine and cool. But for some reason, here lately within our modern society, men have been more attuned to living in the moment than they are planning for the future.
Correct.
What do I mean by that? Let me give you an example. A man will have a one-night stand with a woman, get a woman pregnant, but there has no plan for the birth of the child. Has no real plan as to how to raise the child or what to do with the child. Because what he's done is he's left the responsibility of the child to the woman.
Wow.
But again, you got to look at it from the very beginning of that encounter. He did not come into that encounter with a plan. Yeah. He was in the moment. Whatever the moment offered, whatever the moment gave is what he received at that particular point. There was no plan. There was no logic to it. But here again, as men, we were created as logical beings. And logic dictates that whatever you do, you ought to have a plan before you do it so that you can make sure that you successfully do what you intend to do. But what's interesting, Charles, and again, I want everybody to be a part of this, and that is the fact that when it comes to being pragmatic and planning, we will do it for some things, but in other things, we let those things die or we let them languish. And ladies, you're probably gonna get me, but it's okay. I'm cool with it. I'm a big boy. I can take it. So let's go. So we'll spend more time planning the wedding. We will plan the wedding. We will get meticulous with the wedding. We will get granular with the wedding. We will plan the wedding all the way down to its last detail, the way the napkin is folded on the table and the way the silverware sits on top of the napkin, on top of the table, on top of the tablecloth. We will plan every single detail of the wedding, but we will not plan or think pragmatically about our marriage. We'll let the marriage just go off into the ether, and whatever happens in the marriage happens in the marriage. You see how we got it kind of mixed up here? That we're spending so much time on one day. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't have your day. Okay, if you want your day, fine. Have your day. That's your day. You are the center of attraction. You're the center of the universe. The whole universe revolves around you. It's your day. Your day, okay? You spend all that time, all that money, all that resources for one day. But you have neglected the more important thing, being the viability and the survivability of your marriage. You don't have any system in place to take care of your marriage. You don't have any framework to help you navigate your marriage or your relationships. Again, you're living by the seat of your pants. You're living spontaneously, organically in your marriage, but there is no framework in your marriage. There's no structure in your marriage. That's the reason why some of your marriages don't succeed. And I'm talking about from my own personal experience. I ain't got to talk about nobody else. I can talk about me. And I can look at my past, look at my first marriage, and see the lack of framework existed there. Okay? Because you're not thinking about it. You're just in it. You're just in the moment. And I really do believe, as people, as brothers and sisters, we need to really think about what it is that we're doing and the intent that we have in terms of doing it. That when we walk and see, so here's the thing, and I'm gonna be real transparent with you. Okay, in the first marriage, there were things that happened, things that I was responsible for, things that my ex-wife was responsible for. Okay, we have culpability in this. Okay? That's the truth of the matter. Both of us have culpability in what happened in terms of the demise of our marriage. But second time around, ladies and gentlemen, second time around, I was thoughtful in my marriage. Second time around, I started to think about the direction that I wanted to head in. This was even before I got with Maria. This was way before then. This was me thinking about, okay, what does this look like? Okay, how do I get to where this looks like? How do I get these things to move in the direction that I need them to move in? So by the time I meet the person that I am drawn to, I already have a plan in my mind. I already have a framework established. And so in the beginning of those conversations that we have with one another, in terms of us dating each other, talking to each other, we're having conversations that divulge and disclose who we are as people, but at the same time, simultaneously, we're figuring out how we're going to make this thing work together because we want to be together, and we have a plan. We have a plan to make it happen. Now, life happens. Sometimes
things change.
Things change. But at least we have something we can work from that will enable us to get to where we're going. That's all I'm really trying to say. We again, I got to go back to the reality. We spend a lot of time on the frivolous things, on the things that really don't matter. All the while, we're neglecting the more important matter. What we doing, y'all?
This is good. You're making some phenomenal points, man. Listen, those 2 points alone is key. For the man, the intentionality. For the woman, the reality. And realistically, realistic. And so the reason I say this is because a lot of times when men and women show up together, the focus almost like, I think I got this from you, Adam, because a lot of times I would hear you speak about, different things in a relationship, and you would always say that one thing: I can't read your mind. I can't read your mind. I need you to be explicit with what you are trying to explain. And I'm only saying that to say, a lot of times men and women show up, and regardless of whatever conversations that you guys may initially have or what have you, in some cases, women expect a man to understand what's in here, have a conviction, and have a plan and deliver it, right? And it's not that a man should not have his own system already for his whole life.
Right.
But each woman, each scenario, each relationship has its own dynamic.
It does.
Right? And so in that situation, you have to explain, like, you can't expect the man to read your mind. If you're a woman that is marriage is high on your list, just say it.
Right.
From the onset, right? Yeah. You don't have to take the broom and beat the man over the head every quarter. But
right. Every quarter.
I promise you, if you don't learn nothing from this call, men may not verbally tell you this, ladies, but your initial conversation is key to how he rolls you out in the project.
Okay.
If you tell him in the beginning, I'm just having fun right now. I'm chilling. I just got out of a relationship, so right now I'm just kind of doing me. But I definitely like hanging out with you. You seem like you're good people. Let's go. In his mind, risk, right? I'm gonna hang out with you, okay?
Right.
But you're not telling me that you have a projected future with me. You're just saying you're cool. Let's hang. So whatever happens during the hang period, you cannot come back and then turn around. Well, I mean, what you think? I got feelings. Okay. So do I. But let's not forget, you said in the beginning that wasn't your goal. Right? So I have you on a different mind track. Yeah. That's not to say just because a woman says in the beginning that she wants to get married, that, okay, that's going to automatically work out. But at least the guy, if he's a decent man, he would at least say, okay, I got to handle her differently because this is the time she's on. She's serious. She wants a partner. So let's navigate. I know you got some. Go ahead, Adam.
I do. It's funny that you should say that. And I'm about to get in a lot of trouble, but I want this to help everybody who's listening. I want to help everybody who's listening. Now, I believe it was one of those first conversations that I had with my wife, Maria. We got on there, and I told her one of the things that I told her is that I don't read minds. I never plan on reading minds. I'm not looking for the Lord. I'm not looking for the Lord to reveal it to me. He's not going to give me a prophetic dream about what you're thinking about. You're going to have to open up your mouth and say what it is that you want. Okay. Having said that, I remember having a conversation with her early on in our dating process. It might have been 6 months. It might have been close to a year. And no, it might have been earlier than that. It might have been around the 4 or 5 month mark. Now that I think about it. We're sitting there, we're having a conversation. And one of the things that we were talking about was marriage. And we were talking about the fact that we had all both been married before and experiences that we had and everything like that. And so she went out, she just asked me the question. She said, well, do you want to be married again? And I was like, yeah, I actually do want to be married again. And again, this was something that I had already decided before I met her. This was, for me, it was one of my things that I was looking for before I met her. So this didn't just happen and I just responded. No. This was something that I had already been prepared. And so I said, yeah, I would love to be married again. I would love, when it was good, it was good. So yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
So I asked her, I said, well, what about you? What do you think? Do you want to be married? Do you want to be married? Wow. She said no.
Yes.
She said, I'm good. I'm good. And I'm sitting there going, wow, that's interesting. Okay. All right. And I was like, okay, all right. Okay. And so it's funny because every now and then I'll bring this up to her. I say, well, you're the one that didn't want to get married. So what? What are we doing? 8 years later, what are we doing? What is we doing? So here's my point. My point is this. That if that conversation had never happened, if she had never divulged that information, I would have never known.
Yeah.
I would have never known what she did not want. Now, of course, we did get married. Obviously, somebody changed their mind. Yeah. Oh, I'm in so much trouble. Y'all don't even know. So if I don't make it back next week, then Again, I had already made a decision. I already had my plans, and I'd already revealed what my plans were to her. Yeah. Now she had to make a decision as to what it was that she was going to do at that point in time.
Yeah.
Either we're gonna flow together and walk the same path, or we're gonna flow apart and go our separate ways. But the only way that happens is if I've already made a decision as to what I'm going to do. Now, are you going to come with me, or are you going to go on your own way? What's up?
So I remember this part vividly. If you remember, Adam, and I won't go too far. Anyway, so I remember this conversation escalated because you and I talked about this several times.
Yeah.
And so I remember what prompted the conversation between you and Maria is you were moving and you were getting a house.
Yeah.
Prompted Maria to say, wait, because again, in their minds, they have an idea of what could happen and what would happen. But she didn't necessarily, again, in your mind, it's my woman, but we're comfortable. She didn't say she wants us to get married, so I'm just going to go ahead and move. I'm still going to be with you, but I'm moving, right? So when you did that, I remember that triggered her. And she was like, so what are you doing? I thought we were, and everything from there escalated. But it took you making that kind of move or almost move for her to get triggered to want to do, to see what was different. Because I think she thought you were she was like, wait, so you mean to tell me he's going to get comfortable and even more comfortable?
So again, I got to say, I already had a plan.
Yeah.
I already had an intention. One of the reasons why I was getting a house was so that when my kids wanted to come visit me, they would have a room to stay in.
Correct.
That was the purpose, but that was a part of my plan.
Yeah, for you.
That was what I was doing. Now again, you upon hearing my plan, upon hearing my intention and the path that I'm walking, do you want to be a part of this? Or you don't want to be a part of this?
Wow.
You have a choice to make in terms of what you want to do. Okay? Do you want to come in, or do you want to stay outside?
Wow. My plan is in place, which is the key.
Exactly.
In place. Yeah. Which is, I think, every man should have. Honestly, every man. Now, all men are at different spectrums, resource-wise, and that has nothing to do with what I'm explaining. Like whether you're rich, poor, in the middle, whatever level you are, have a plan at that level, right? And the woman that you invite into your system, you invite her in and explain, this is my system, and this is the level of system I'm at. It's okay with you, right? And you have that conversation, and then you can say, okay, well, if you're good with it, let's work. And I'm going, if you don't mind, some men may say, watch me work and lead, and some men may say, walk with me and let's do this.
Yeah.
It depends, but everybody's lead style is different, and so the thing is, like at work, I get asked a lot, oh, what's your management style? And I'll be like, visionary. I always say I set the vision, and I will take the first step at showing the example, and then they come follow. You know what I'm saying? But everybody's different, right? So the thing is, you have to be that person to say, listen, I'm going to do this. Let's do this together, and let's go. But I do know, I want people to understand this one thing. On that part of the project where I said when the action is happening, it's called monitoring and controls. So monitoring is checkpoints, but there has to be a level of control,
right?
Because that's how what we do gets enforced.
Yeah,
are we in compliance as a couple? Because you can't just be willy-nilly. And I know today's world, we don't want to hear nothing about control because that sounds forced.
Right?
It's a narcissist. No, it's just saying we have to implement standards. Systems make it easy to monitor standards. If you don't have a system, there's no standards. So my point is, if we're going to have a standard in a relationship, then let's establish the controls. The controls are, what are our boundaries?
Okay.
What are our non-negotiables?
Yeah.
what offends you? What's too far? What's not enough?
Right.
Is this pace satisfactory that we're going, or do you feel we need to step it up 3 times? It may not happen. It may be 2 times or 1, but at least voice it. We can't read. Men cannot read minds, and I know a lot of people think, well, you should know. Even especially if you've been married before, you've been in several relationships, or a certain age. We still aren't Marvel superheroes. We cannot see your mind. Only way we can understand what you're saying is if you say it.
So here's the thing, Charles. Here's the thing that really kind of it boggles my mind sometimes, and I just don't. It's crazy. So you want me to know something and do something that you never opened up your mouth to actually say, but you expect me to know it. Yeah, know it explicitly.
Yeah,
why wouldn't you want to say what it is? Here's the thing. So regardless of how many relationships I may have been in, you're still you, and you are an individual, which means you're not like the previous 5 that I had before. Yeah. You are you. And so you're completely different from the ones that I had before. So why would I assume that the same things that they wanted are the same things that you want?
Yeah.
Why would I? Oh, you should just know. No, and no again. That ain't nothing. Right. No. That's going to be a conversation that we both have with one another. Because here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. I respect you enough to listen to what you have to say. If you take the time to say it.
Wow.
If you expect me to know it, I'm never going to know it.
Wow.
Do not expect a man just to know what you don't tell.
Wow.
How does that work?
Wow.
Listen, real quick. I'm gonna go spiritual on you. Even with God does not expect you to know what His will is unless you ask Him what His will is, and then He tells you what His will is. Come on, what kind of God is that? That expects you to know what His mind is thinking.
Wow. That's why you got to seek it.
Yeah, you got to seek after Him.
Yeah, that's it.
The Bible says that those that seek after Him, that He is a rewarder of them that diligently seek Him. But there's a seek in there, and there's a revelation in the seek. You have to reveal yourself. You have to make a full disclosure of your thoughts.
Yeah,
person that you want to know your thoughts.
Yeah.
Otherwise, how do they know? The answer is they will never know.
Yeah. And then there is it has to be a wisdom in your delivery.
Right.
No one can, because there are a lot of people that can they say a lot of things or have said a lot of things, but wisdom tells you how to say it so that just like how we garnish our food. Mm-hmm. You never seen somebody put things on their food before they eat. They're very careful. They're like, not too much salt, pepper, a little bit of this. So do that in your communication.
Right. Wow.
Don't just pour the whole thought on the conversation.
Yeah.
So that people can understand you better and that there can be a better, a reciprocal thing going on. And so here's the last part I want you to chime in, Adam, if you can. Yeah. I think here's another default behavior that I think sometimes women assume men to know. Okay. They will. Oh, Bruce says stay there. No.
You're in trouble.
No, what he's saying is okay. So women want men to assume their readiness for what want him to be ready for.
Okay.
Right? And this is not even an isolated thing. This is just a woman-wide thing, period. There is no, I've just noticed over years when it comes to marriage or the conversation, I guess what I want to say, and women, y'all chime in if you can, if you will. What I want to know is how do women expect men that they're looking to take life to the next level with to gauge their level of readiness for that thing. Because I think, I'm saying this because I think a lot of women show up with, yeah, that's my intentions, is to get married. So what are you going to do? You understand what I'm saying? The man is like, okay, but there's more to it than that, right? If you're asking someone to come into your system, like you and I can't walk up to Google and say, hey, I got 30 years plus experience in this. You guys need to have me in that chair first thing Monday. I'll see you then. They'll be like, get on out of here. We have a process. Like we have a system of being onboarded or even, or even being considered to be a part of us. So it's just not a conversational. There is nothing about what you got on or how you are when we go eat that tells me you're ready to be married.
Yeah.
Other than you saying it.
Yeah. No, that absolutely is a conversation. That you cannot get around that. I mean, think about the ramifications of getting married to somebody. But you want somebody to assume that you're ready to get married. Yeah. It doesn't work like that. You have to be willing to have a conversation about something that's going to change your entire life.
Yeah.
And it should not be taken lightly. Yeah. You should be at pause when the very notion of marriage presents itself in your relationship. Wow. That should be like, oh, wait a minute. Let's have a conversation. What do you see? What are you hearing? What do you want to do? Because again, I would not, never assume that my wife wanted something that I had not asked her about before. Okay, she said she didn't. She said at that point she did not want to get married.
Yeah,
but that was the information that I had. That's all that I had. That's all that I know. Unless something else changes, unless she changes her mind. And when she changes her mind, see, I'm still operating off of you don't want to get married.
Yeah.
Not until she changes her mind and then she says out of her mind, I do want to get married, that I now know what the next step is.
Wow.
But until then, I don't know.
Now, Dion brings up a good point to gauge off of. This is a good example. You see, Dion says, it's usually communicated, but men don't listen until the 50th time. Yeah, right. But here's the key. Words alone does not show readiness.
Okay.
I can sit there and tell somebody I want to be married, and I can be jacked up in the backdrop, but I'm saying I want to be married.
Right.
So I'm just saying, what is it? What is the gauge point that men, not just, okay, yes, you can tell a man, I'm ready to get married because I'm going to tell you, I've done it before. I've been married 2 times. I don't got time for these games. I know how to cook a meal. I know how to sleep with my man. I know how to do all these things. Fine, right? But what gauges, what is the thing about a man to say, you know what? I can see that. Now, if I had to guess off the top of my head, it is something seen through time. Through time and perseverance with the person. You can see their consistency. Right. You can see how they act under fire. Right. You can see how they act at times of praise. You can see how they act. Look, let me tell you, one of the easiest things to see about next level with a person is be with a person when they are elevated, and you will see what you're dealing with. Okay. Either elevated or in a hellacious time in their life. Then you'll know what you got. Because elevated is that temptation to be brand new, and because some women and men, this is a man and women thing, but some women and men can love you great at a humble position. But when they get back to where they feel that they belong or should have been at first, then their palate changes. The appetite changes. Now I need steak, not you. Yeah. You understand? So we flip. So we got to understand when you see how a person can handle change on that level and handle a really, really, really rough time in their life, that tells you the kind of person you're dealing with. Because anybody can be good when we all, the money, all the bills paid, I'm flying you out, we going on to high-end restaurants. Nobody's going to complain going to the mall and having a decent whatever life, intimate life you got. Everybody's smiling. But when those things show up is when we see what we're really, really working with and really who's ready or who not. You know
right.
what I'm saying? Yeah.
Right. So let me just add this, and I'll say this in response to what Dion was saying. It's usually communicated, but men don't listen. I think one of the things that we have neglected to master is the ability to listen.
Mm.
We hear a lot of stuff, and
Yeah.
the definition of hearing is to recognize something audibly. We hear a lot of stuff, but to the ability or the skill set to be able to listen requires understanding of what has been said or communicated. Wow. And a lot of times we hear stuff. Men, we hear stuff. And like my father was saying, it goes in one ear and it comes out the other. It goes right through. But it doesn't register because we're not listening. And to put a finer point on it, we're not actively listening.
Correct.
We're not listening to understand what you said. As men, because men are traditionally horrible communicators.
Correct.
Horrible communicators.
Right.
I will grant you that.
Yeah.
Horrible communicators. Men need to learn not only how to talk about their feelings and their thoughts, but they also, just as importantly, need to learn how to listen. Because often, a lot of times, the woman is speaking, but you're just not listening to her. You're not paying attention to her. And the same can be said for women when it comes to men. The man is speaking, the man is talking, but it feels like he's saying the same thing over and over again. But are you really listening?
Correct. To you, it feels like it.
Are you
really pouring it out?
Yeah. Are you really listening to what he's saying to you? It's important that we really grasp those principles, because I really do believe it will help us to diffuse a lot of potential arguments.
Yeah.
One of the things that I do with my wife, and here recently we did it. We were having a conversation, and after I said what I was saying, she had a response.
Yeah.
And so my job as the husband at that point is to listen. What is she saying? Not only am I listening to what she's saying, but I'm watching her. I'm looking at her. I'm taking it all in so that when I respond to her, I'm responding to everything that she said, verbally and non-verbally. Because that's what you do as a husband. You listen to what's happening. You pay attention to what's happening.
Yeah.
So that way, when you respond, you're not just responding to one aspect of what has been said, but you're responding to the whole totality of what has been said, non-verbally and verbally.
Yeah.
And so I think that's important. So that way you don't have to get to the 50th time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Bruce is setting the match out. Bruce, he lit the match. Bruce said many women have had so many men who can't articulate that they can't hear the man that can articulate.
Wow.
That's tough.
Yeah.
You know what? That's real talk though.
Yeah.
That's for real. It's like, and a lot of times it's like you're on point when you say women, I can admit, women will express their feelings, right? They're gonna tell you where they at, they're gonna tell you what they like, what they need, really what they need, and what they desire. So women will do that. And sometimes men, we have selective hearing. Sometimes we'll be like, that my hearing aid is on. We don't hear, we don't want to hear, but we hear, right? So that's the truth. But one thing I will always say, as hard as it is for men to express themselves, if you are fortunate enough to be around a guy that articulates to you specifically his discomfort in something, his pain about something.
Right.
I know this is a challenging part, but I'm only saying this because I remember from experience. I remember painfully explaining to someone a plight I was in. Wow. And in other words, this plight, I was basically crying out to say, just give me a little clemency. Just give me a little patience here because I'm dealing with this.
Right.
And sometimes it's difficult for people to see beyond that when it's something bigger that they see for themselves. Like sometimes people can see something with you, and they can, in their mind, will you stop dealing with that? You can get on over here. But a man's process is paramount, right? You got to allow him, because guess what? What kind of leader or example would he be if he's rushed to be a bruised leader and not a healed one? So my point is, the end game is the end game, but you got to let people evolve to be where they need to be. Because I would do the same. If a woman was telling me, I'm in pain, just hear me out, help me, or support me. I'm not going to say, forget your pain, come on. No, I heard what you said. I'm going to be patient. So the problem is we have the challenge to be patient because we want so many things, or like Bruce said, we compare so many scenarios and situations to our past. And we feel like if it was like this in my past and other men or women, why shouldn't it be this way with you? And everybody's different. Everybody's healing time is different.
Right.
You know, Adam, how you like the Marvels. You see how sometimes you see how Wolverine he'll get hurt and then heal immediately.
It's healing fast.
Everybody's not like that. Some men, when you shoot them, when they get shot, they're in the hospital for 6-7 months, a year. It's just everybody's healing mechanism is different. So we just gotta be unselfish when it comes to that.
Yeah, well, be sensitive. Just be sensitive to the other.
Yeah.
Sensitive. Oh, we done. Are we still on the same topic? What we doing?
No, so at the end of the day, let's bring it all back. At the end of the day, the whole point of this show, we were just trying to introduce the idea of men taking the time to prepare themselves to be systems that a woman would be attracted to join, right? Because if we're honest, women are with us because of some game we spit. You're handsome. They like how you handle yourself over there, in there. You're a nice guy. I'm single, so why not? I want to get married, so why not?
Right.
But why can't we clean up that, right? And just show up as more prepared men that can have more fruitful outcomes rather than these conversations where we have what we doing and what's this mean? Because like I said, I'm gonna say it again. If a man just drives and drives and drives and he doesn't have an intention, you're gonna be driving all night and lost. Right. So you gotta allow him to have a system so that you can work well together in this project system. Right. And that thing can work out really good together. You know what I'm saying? That's all.
Real talk.
That's it, man. Oh, good. I mean, I'll tell you the other part of the project later. But anyway, we appreciate you all for two. Hey, Bruce. No, real quick for Bruce. I don't want to forget what Bruce said. Bruce wanted to stake on that part really quick about when we're talking about the communication, and when I was saying about the communication about garnishing the food. And it's like, so we got to think of it when we're communicating to one another. We know how to be careful with our food, but we don't want to be careful with one another. And we got to know that when we're talking to each other, words are powerful.
Yes, they are.
And intent behind those words is paramount. So my point is, you don't want to get so emotional or so upset as a man or a woman that you communicate in such a rash way that you just lose a person altogether. Right. Like you want to communicate in a way that people can say, you know what, that didn't feel good a little bit, but I respect the way you gave it to me. Right. That was good. That was a good conversation. I actually feel encouraged that we can move to the next phase. Yeah. Not the ones where we hanging up on each other, cussing each other out, or I'm breaking up with you. I'm done. All those silly conversations, right? When we know we can be better and show up better than that. That's all.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah,
man.
Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Sorry for going over a little bit. It's a Unique Perspectives Love Talk Radio, where we talk about the system of love, the project steps from exclusivity to marriage. We'll be here next week, same time, same channel, 4:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. And we appreciate you guys for tuning in. All right. All right, Mr. Ford. So, sir, maybe the men should just walk around with shirts that say Project X, Project J, Project. Let the women choose the projects they want to join, right? Because all projects are different, right? All projects rollouts are different. Some are large scale project, some are small scale. Whatever you can handle, ladies, that's what you sign up for. But you got to remember, if you don't know anything else, you have to make it your business to learn that man's project style. And if it's too overwhelming or not enough, voice it. Or if it's just right, let's both be grateful. But don't just take it. Don't just come into it and not say anything, but just have all this angst and all this kind of stuff with it. I mean, because like I said, we all are grown, and either we feel we can be successful with a person in business or we can't. Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty much it, man. I think, we need to be intentional in terms of what we're doing. And stop letting things happen accidentally, or we fail into it. I mean, come on. At some point in time, you have to take responsibility for yourself.
Yeah, I agree.
Learn how to be responsible for what you have and who you have. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, good talk. Somebody all relaxed. Let's make sure ain't no wine over there. Anyway, all right, you guys. I see. All right. We'll see you guys next week. Much love. Appreciate the support as usual. Take care until next time. Peace.